I used to run a project or support a project called 1 Million Farmers. So we wanted to digitize 1 million farmers. And I thought, what if instead we train 1 million developers who I can even give to those farmers to digitize, you know?
Okay.
And that's where our first program came about.
Okay.
The 1 million devs for Africa.
Yeah.
And it sounded very, I remember everyone we were talking to, they were just thinking, you guys are nuts. 1 million, what do you mean? And then the research is showing quality developers in Africa were about 780K, I think, at the time, like in Africa.
The whole continent.
So they're like, you're even planning to train more than. But I was like, guys, look at the opportunity. There is a huge demand for this kind of talent. And mine is very agnostic, you know?
In Kenya alone, like there are 800,000 graduates a year. So a year.
A year.
Hello, champions. As you can see, we're super excited today. We have an amazing guest. She's called Mumbi, and we can't wait to hear her story. But she's truly a mover and shaker. And it's exciting also because this is our season finale, season 2. It's already 24 episodes in, guys. So thank you for following closely. And I'm sure you're picking all the gems. And today, we're getting many, many more gems. So Mumbi is an inspiring leader. She's in the space of building people, building young people. So she's all about youth empowerment. And she's the founder and executive director of PLP Africa. That's Powerland Project. She'll tell us what they do, but from our little reading, they managed to train over 10,000 young people on technology and just upskilling them, building skills to be able to get into the workplace and build stuff. So that's really amazing across 5 countries. She's top 40 under 40 women this year. Hey. So well done. And they're looking lovely today. Karibu sana.
Asante sana. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Mark, ask the hard question.
Yes. So the hardest question, you've been on multiple panels. You've gone for interviews. You've raised venture capital or social impact capital. But still the hardest question is, how would you define yourself? So who is Mumbi?
So first, thank you so much for having me on. This is my first podcast. Like I've been on panels and and many stages across the world, but never on a podcast. So awesome. I appreciate this. So who is Mumbi? So hey, that question is usually hard. So I'm like, do I define myself with my work? Do I define myself with But I think in general, I just like to say I'm just what can I define it? Hey, it's a hard question. Yeah. I'm a young person first. I'm a passionate leader. I'm a technology enthusiast. Yeah. I am an aspiring DJ.
Yes.
I am a sister. I'm a friend. And potentially future president of this country.
Hey.
Now you had it here first.
Campaign has officially been launched.
That's awesome.
Yes, but in summary, I think that's how I define myself. But also, just generally, I think I'm a person who just loves life, loves to inspire people, Just loves to interact and engage with people. I have too many, my friends complain I have too many friends. I know too many people.
Yeah.
I think I'm one very resilient human being as well. I just from my story, which I'm sure we'll hear today, you can just tell. But to sum it up, I think that would be Mumbi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we usually like the second question, which is, what personal quote or like mantra would you say like just gets you out of bed every morning? Something you really believe in?
So I think top one is I don't know who exactly said it, but it says, I think the two most important days in your life are the day you were born, and then the day you find out why. So I think for me, there are people who just live through life. You're just there, you exist. For me, I choose to thrive through life, regardless of the circumstance and the situation. And I think a heavy contribution to that is finding out, why I exist. Because it gets you up in the morning, even on the hard days, you remember why you exist. You remember, it kind of gives you validation. I think that's one of the most like powerful quotes I've heard in my life.
Yeah, that's powerful.
Yeah.
That's really
Which is has that day come for you?
I think so. I think a huge part of it came with the Powerland project.
Okay.
A huge part of it. I feel like I knew it, but the way you have a gut feeling, but then to follow it through is a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
So I feel like for me with Powerland project, I kind of found, my purpose, my why. Yeah.
Jeez, like takes people like, 10 years, 20 years, 50,
a
50
whole
years
lifetime
to find out their purpose. So like, what are some of the things that came together for you to find this, you at Desta University, then you worked for the World Bank, now you're in social impact. So like, how did all these pieces come together?
So I think my journey, just to give a brief highlight, so I was born many years ago.
Relative.
Many years ago. I grew up in Diani, in Mombasa. So my folks worked in the hospitality industry, so they were based there. I have one elder sister who's also my best friend, which is people find very interesting, which I really value as well. She still lives there for her. She still works in that space. I'm the one who kind of stepped out of the hospitality way. But I grew up there. I went to a primary school there called Word of Life. Christian Academy, and this was like where our formative years, kabisa. Like until today, I'm very good friends with my class 1 teacher. Even when the top 40 thing came out, I mean, she was one of the people to call and say, congratulations, I always knew you had it in you. She kept telling my parents, because I always used to be this kid who was like very curious, I want to know everything. I want to be everywhere. And especially for African parents, if you don't understand, like that could actually be something like very powerful in a child, you'd actually just think they are just kichwangumu, like they're just truant. So my class 1 teacher, I think because she had that prior knowledge, she knew how to nurture that into something. So she'd always like give me leadership things to do. So we're having we're organizing for we used to do like fashion contests and things like that. So Mumbi would always be, organizing people and doing things. So when we're in Diani, when we closed school, I always used to have this thing where, because I used to go to school with some kids who came from like children's homes. So I used to be very like interested to see, like to understand like how did they end up there, and then how can we help. So I used to have this thing with my family where every holiday we'd save up some stuff and then we'd go for a day and spend time at the children's home. And I sort of feel like now looking back, that's kind of where my social impact journey began. Like that passion for that. It's just that at the time it didn't have a name. It was, CSR. Nenda kupeleka chakula. So we'd go take some food, clothes you don't wear, spend the day with them, eat with them, and then in the evening, go back home. And then fast forward now to like after high school to university, I went to Daystar. I think in my second year, I came together with some friends. We started a CBO, a community-based organization called Love Light 58. So Love Light 58 used to rehabilitate street families. So there's a time, because we were in school in Athi River, when we'd come to Nairobi, we'd find so many like street people. And my question always used to be like, why are these guys so many all of a sudden during that time? And so one time, we took the opportunity to ask, like, why on the streets? And you'd find out that some of their stories are not very out of this world. It's something that could happen to any of us. Today I had a job. Tomorrow I didn't have the job anymore. So I couldn't pay rent. So I had to come on the streets. No one could help me. It was something very simple. Some of them were elderly. Some of them were young. So we decided with my friends, we'd save up like 200 shillings every week. And then we'd come to Nairobi every Friday in the evening. So we started a thing every Friday evening where we'd go to Nakumatt Lifestyle, where I used to be before. And then we'd like buy some stuff. And then we'd bring these people together. And then, we'd have, talks with them, inspire them, just tell them like, it's not the end of the world. Give them some milk and bread, fellowship together. And then we'd go home. But then we realized after a period of time, they started becoming many because now they'd go and tell each other. So I tell my friend.
On Fridays.
Hey, Friday, at least leo tunajua we have some food somewhere.
Yeah.
It evolved into a thing now. It started even having music.
Okay.
It became a thing now. But then again, for most people, when they see a group of street people together at one place, the first thing they think is insecurity.
Okay.
So the businesses around there started complaining. But the beauty of Nakumatt at the time, I think they realized, because we used to shop there all the time and they used to see us there all the time. So they used to wonder, why are you guys buying trolleys of milk and bread every Friday? So one of the managers came and talked to us. And then he was like, oh, this is an amazing initiative. Went talk to, I think, his bosses. And then the next time we came, they said that everything we buy, they would double. So if we buy, like, say, we didn't have a lot of money. It was like 2K, but we'd buy like milk, bread, and then now whatever we buy, they match it.
Wow, that's
and
nice.
then now we take it to the, and then some of them would come out with us, like Nakumatt Lifestyle.
Yeah. So this is the employees or like who took the initiative to do that?
So it's the manager at Nakumatt at the time.
Yes.
I think he went back and talked to his bosses or whoever.
Wow.
And then now he came and told us that this is something we'd be doing for you. And the beauty is some of the employees now used to come out at night, just to see and talk to these guys. And then we realized here we have a thing, and I remember at the time we were together with another young gentleman called Brian Muremi. And Brian was also very passionate about this as well. And we were like, why not make this into an actual thing, instead of just doing it haphazardly. Yeah. And that's when the CBO came about.
Okay.
But at the time, there was also this very difficult engagement with the government, because I think they felt like two things. One, we were either not doing it for the right reasons, or two, we were trying to make them look bad. Because ideally, that's the job of the government to take care of that. So some of them were not very happy with us doing that, So I remember one Friday, just before we stopped. At this point, I think we were having a big celebration, because it got to a point where we'd host about 250 of street people in one Friday night. So it got to a point. So we used to now calculate like how many meals have we been able to offer, over 15,000 meals, things like that. So one Friday evening, Kanjo wakaamua leo ndio wanakuja. And let me tell you guys,
oh gosh,
it was extremely scary. So we were there, we were doing the thing, our usual thing. And now we've created a sense of family. Yes. So these street guys are like, they are going towards the Kanjo. They're like, you can't attack these people. They've been helping us more than you have. Hey, those guys didn't want to hear anything. They're like, who is leading this thing? Yeah, we were about 4 or 5 people. Tukaingishwa kwa ile gari ya Kanjo ile. Hey. And it was a Friday night. So they were going around collecting all sorts of people, people, drunk people on the road, from, the street sex workers, everything. You all put together. So at this time, Twitter had just started becoming a thing in Kenya. So it's the time when, like, if it's like Bob Colimo tweeting, at that time I think it was Michael Joseph, for example, he would be the one tweeting, not his assistant, not his PA. It was those times.
Yeah.
So I decided to document this journey as we were in that car. So I had my phone. So I was documenting this amazing lady called Janadine DM'd me back. And then she asked, like what's happening? Is there anything that we can do to assist? And I told them, so they've caught us here. They're saying they're taking us to Central Police. They're saying we're bringing insecurity. The business owners have complained. So I remember at the time, Gina, well, she still is, I think, one of the most powerful people I know. But at the time, she was very good friends with the mayor of the time. That time we used to have mayors, not governors. That's how old I am, guys. My age is showing. Yeah. So she called the mayor. And then all of a sudden, in the middle of like CBD, the car stopped, and then we're told, hey, why didn't you guys say, Bana, you are with the boss, and things like that.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. So they were so sorry. They were even like offering to take us home, each of us home. That time we were so scared.
Do you know why no?
That time we didn't know how to pull rank. We didn't know how to pull names and things like that. As Kwanzaa, we were just scared. I was thinking, how am I going to tell my parents I'm in jail? I'm supposed to be in university, in school.
Yeah.
So they released us. They offered to take us, but they told us, today you might be safe today, but next time you might not be safe because the business owners there are not happy. Because their clients are feeling some type of way. So there used to be like a pizza in there, a Nando's there, that junction.
Yeah.
So most of them were very uncomfortable. They're like, hey, these guys are scaring off our clients.
Yeah.
So they were like, either you move it somewhere else, like Central Park, or you just think of something different because it might be us today. Next time we will be shikwad by other people, other kanjo.
Yeah.
So it's not something that is kind of in our control. Much as you have all the documentation and paperwork and, the favor of the government passing. So we went we were happy to go home. We went, decided to sort of strategize. But I think for me, the big pain became, what if I didn't have that connection to someone like Gina? What would have happened to me?
Yeah.
Or what happens to someone somewhere who doesn't have that kind of connection? And I remember at the time I was studying journalism at Dista, and I thought media, I always still think media is one of the most powerful tools in the world. So I decided to reach out to like different media stations to ask them, could you like share, we are doing these amazing things. We have pictures, we have a website, everything. But most of them were like, okay, like it's not a big thing, passing, street people have always been there. So many people have tried to help them, and most of these people, we end up finding out it's not legit. They're just looking for donation money and then they eat the money. So it was really frustrating to me. Luckily, on Twitter again at the time, I reached out to Julie Gishuru at the time.
Okay.
So this is the time she was doing Sunday Live. So Sunday Live was kind of a different form of news. She used to do it in a way that was more issue-based. So she'd focus on like, what are some of the issues and what is being done, She'd ask all the hard questions and things like that. And so she was very interested in like what we were doing.
Yeah.
But she also had one very important question for me. What happens to someone who doesn't have access to someone like me? Which is kind of the same thing I was thinking in the back of my mind. Yeah. So she was like, it's amazing. I'll put you on Sunday Live. You can come and show us what you're doing. I can even bring the mayor to ask him why there are so many street people. We can do a whole thing. But what happens to someone in, say, in Turkana or in Isiolo who wants to do this, in Meru who wants to do the same thing and doesn't have that kind of.
Yeah.
And that's where the idea of my first, what I call startup, came about. It was a media startup known as Ibo Africa.
Okay.
And Iboa is a Swahili word which means to emerge.
Yes.
And my goal was to help people like me get an opportunity to emerge. One, by telling their story, but secondly, also helping them in terms of like capacity building resources, if they need connections to people and things like that. Because I realized also I'm very good at networking. So I was like, why waste these networks that I have, yet I can help people.
Yeah.
And so Ibo Africa was born.
Before you tell us
yes,
more,
yes.
I'm curious about that name. It refuses to come out of my mind. Live light.
Love Light 58.
Love Light 58. Why 58?
Yes.
Why, like,
So
what
the
is
58 was based off of Isaiah 58.
that?
So and Isaiah 58 was heavily lies around just to paraphrase it.
Yeah.
It's a verse that says, the way we should not boast about the little we have because it could be taken away anytime. But also we should not be proud in our deeds of good. So if I come and I help you today, Astesh, when you're suffering, say you don't have food today, it should not be my position to go to the world to say, by the way, that guy, I'm the one who used to give him food. Kabisa, and that's a thing that a lot of people have, especially in Kenya, I think in the world over, especially right now. When they see you're just progressing slightly and looking like you're doing something nice, they're like, by the way, me, I'm the one who helped that guy.
It's true.
So, so that's where it's based off of from.
That's powerful.
Yeah. So, so back to Igbo Africa now. And so because Julie had prior, knowledge of media, she was very helpful with that. Yeah. And I remember I launched it on my 25th birthday.
Oh, geez, okay.
And my thing was I'd pick like what we call change makers every week. And then I'd pick someone who people don't know. Okay. And then we'd now like go find out whatever they're doing, verify it, and make sure it's something legit. And then now invite them to come tell their story. And then we used to do it in form of Twitter chats instead of like that time podcast was not a thing, and
space.
And Twitter spaces were not there. Yeah. So we used to do a Twitter chat every Wednesday, 5 to 6 p.m. We tell people come on board. So we tell the story of this person the whole week, and then on Wednesday you come on board and ask questions about, ask them questions. How did you start? How did you something similar to this? Yeah. So Ibua started like that. So it became a passion project. And I got to interact with so many people. That's how I found out about the first female marine pilot, Liz Marami.
Okay.
That's how I found out about Wawera with Food for Education. I've seen her journey from, where she started in Roiro to where she is now. I'm very, very proud of that journey. That's where I met people like Susan Silantoi, who is now the Minister of Health in Nairobi County. Before, like these were people whose journeys started very long time ago. But, most people don't know, the work on the ground. They only see the glam. Yeah. So we were able to do quite a couple of change makers. By the time we were on the 20th, we were quite popular. And then now we sort of became the voice of young people.
Okay.
So I remember there's this time when I remember the former president used to have this meetings for like each ministry. So like this time was youth and so they invite like young people to come and talk about what are some of the problems the young people are facing and things like that. And so kind of that's how I got into that space for like youth empowerment. Okay. So in all these spaces, in all these meetings, and then now it started growing from Kenya to like abroad. So now I started interviewing guys in Somalia, in Botswana, in Ghana. And they were all based off of, I know Tesh knows this person. So I think this person should be on Ibua, and then it now kind of became a thing. So we did Ibua for about maybe 1 year. By the time the year was ending now, we were like at UN level, like it's UN guys now who are like, okay, these guys are, I'm hosting a youth gathering. I need credible young people. Please bring me. So it became a business now.
Okay. So they
evolved.
reach out to you.
Yeah. So they reach out to me. They're like, do you know young people in this space? Say in the political, they want to be aspiring political people. So that's when I take Nerima Wako, I take Billion, I take, all these guys. And that's how they also got into these spaces where ideally most people would not have if we were not in an organized sense of manner. And also goes back to my thing. I keep telling people now, I love what we're doing with the protests and everything, but I still think we need to be organized in one way or another because we have more power in that way when we have structure and organization and systems. So I did Ibua for a bit. While doing Ibua, I went for a meeting at the World Bank.
Okay.
And this meeting was because they were really struggling to find ways to engage with young people.
Okay.
And the other part, they were also finding a huge challenge when it came to misrepresentation. So you'd find the newspapers, the media, they'd go and say, maybe the country director of the World Bank goes for a meeting somewhere. And then they say, oh, we are here. We're happy to support you. Now the media would take that and say the World Bank has said they are giving money to do this.
Okay.
And now it became a problem because now when it escalates to the main, to the main headquarters, guys are like, what is this? We don't commit like this. But most of the time it was misinformation.
Okay.
And another huge part was engagement with young people was not very. They didn't have a lot of engagement with young people. Most people used to fear, like you hear the World Bank,
This large organization.
These guys. First, the people thought they were very predatory, for lack of a better word. Like they were very, so the like I don't want to be near those people. They're just here to harass us and, And so the new country director who had come in, her name was Diaritu Gaye. She just came from, I think, the Maldives. She had done a lot of work with young people within the bank and she saw what power it had. And so she wanted to translate the same thing here in Kenya, in Africa. So she was looking for someone who understood sort of like development and also sort of like social media and things like that. So at this particular time, I was, when I was doing Ibua, I was still doing another show called the African Leadership Dialogues.
Okay.
So where Julie Gishuru used to travel around the world, she'd interview, these very big leaders. So I kind of understood development and, social impact and, policy and governance and how these things work, So as a young person, that put me in a very, very what do you call it? Like a very strategic position. And so I went for this meeting and they were doing this thing called, they wanted to start a blog contest for young people. And then the winners would get internships in the banks and things like that. I read that brief. I was like, why? It has like you could tell it's not a young person who was involved in the writing of that brief. It was very off kabisa. So I was like, okay, I don't think this is going to work. So I gave them like a whole list of things like this is what needs to change. This is what needs to change. By the time I was done, that lady had walked up. She was going to HR to go and tell them to give me a contract. She's like, these are the people we need in this bank. Weirdly, and that's how I got into the World Bank. And most people don't understand until today. It takes almost 8 or more interviews for you to get that job. So she was like, this is what I'm looking for. I need people who can act. I need people who can work. So I'll give you a consulting contract. Let's see how you work. And then let's see how we progress from there. And now that also put me in a better and a more strategic position to advocate for young people. And so we started the blog contest and we started youth engagements within the bank. So every project, before they do a project, they have a youth component in it. They involve the youth people to, and UN had really started that a lot. And I think they were trying to benchmark on that a lot. They had started that. They had started the UN Youth Office, something like that. So the World Bank was also trying to see how they can make that a thing. And coincidentally, this year, a few months ago, I was at Washington for the World Bank Youth Summit, which is like a dream that started like 20 years ago, 10 years ago. And now it evolved into something. And now we are in this room. I was seated in that room feeling very surreal because I'm like seated here with like people from like, I don't know, like young almost people. all the 150 countries, young people who are here saying, it's our time now. We need to know, we need to get into these spaces, We are seeing the big leaders of the World Bank coming in, the president of the World Bank coming in and saying, we are here, your voices are important and things like that. And I feel like as young people right now, we are in such a strategic position. We need to figure out how we can make it work for us for a better future.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
Like in your mind, maybe the things you've seen and the things you know now, like what do you mean by strategic? Like what can
I feel like,
young people do?
especially for Africa. So Africa is one, right now, everyone is looking to Africa for a lot of things. One key thing being labor, human capital. The whole world over, everywhere we go, I was in Austria last year. They keep complaining that they don't have young people because people maybe, got married, got only 2 children. Those children get 1 children. So it's like, now they are really struggling because most of their people are getting older.
Yeah. It's an aging population.
So they don't have young people who can, complement the labor force, that existing labor force now. Now they're looking to Africa to see how do we now
complement.
Same thing with Italy. Same thing with so many countries are really struggling with that. So everyone is now looking to Africa.
Okay.
So like one of the things we do at Powerland Project is called the talent mobility.
Okay.
And and why we do talent mobility is because we've seen there's a huge gap. There's also a huge gap here of unemployment.
Okay.
So there's no need for me to stay in Nairobi being unemployed because I want to be, in Nairobi. Yet I can go to Austria for 2-3 years, do work, make money, come back home, make a difference. So that's something called talent mobility. So it's something we're also working on.
Okay. You've answered that so well because we talked about it maybe 2 episodes ago with Dan.
Yes.
Yeah, and we were asking what he thinks about people moving out of the country. Is it a good thing or bad thing? That's a very good way to frame.
Interesting. So I know people have mixed feelings about it. My mixed feelings come when it comes to what exactly are they going to do out there.
Okay.
Because I honestly believe Africans are very talented, especially young Africans. We have the right skill set. Looking at Kenya only, I honestly believe like our exports, like when we go out there and talk about export, I think what we should sell the most is our human capital. Like everywhere you travel in this world, I'm sure you guys have traveled so much. Everywhere we go, guys are like,
Kenyans
you're Kenyans. Kenyans, they are on point. Work ethic is good, hospitable. And I feel like that's our selling point. But it's not our selling point to go and become house helps.
Yes.
It's not our selling point to go and become truck drivers only. I'm not saying those are bad jobs. I'm like, we have potential to do great things. We just need the opportunity for those things. And this heavily, I think, goes back to policy. And that's why I was saying I also have a huge passion for public service.
Okay.
Because I've been on both sides of the coin. I've been in the private sector. I've been in the World Bank, the arm which works with the government. I've seen that if things want to be done, they can be done. All this bureaucracy, all this. So if we have the right people sitting in government, I think we can see the change that we are really advocating for right now. So just going back, what was I saying? Oh yeah. So I joined the World Bank. Within the World Bank, I still was able to continue doing a lot of the work I was doing with Ibua. And then one thing really stood out to me was that there was a huge gap when it came to supporting people who run social impact enterprises. So I went to school. I went to Strathmore. They had a course in collaboration with the University Business School in Canada. It's called the SODA Business School, University of British Columbia. And we did, and they taught us a lot about impact investing and things like that. And after that, I think it really opened up my mind to seeing how do I now scale what I'm doing with Ibua beyond just telling their stories to actually helping them find resources to scale their businesses. But I knew that we required a lot of patient capital. So we needed people who understood that kind of work and language and all of that. And so my new baby came up called Ibua Impact Fund. So partnered up with some other gentlemen. Decided we're going to launch an impact fund, started talking to the different people that we had networked with who had seen the work we're doing at Ibua. So this is where now I think my journey of now shifting, because I feel like until that point, I was still in a bubble where I assumed, everyone wants the best for everyone in the world. You know that kind of naivety you usually have. It's like, all of us, we want to succeed. There's room for everyone on the table. We can all succeed. And I feel like this journey with the fund kind of opened my eyes to like, hey, by the way, ukange ukijua you are on your own.
What did you see? Oh gosh.
So we decided to launch the fund. So the usual stuff you start with. You start with the networking before you actually do the launch.
Yes.
So my plan was I was going to so I used to be part of this thing called the Economic and Social Council at the UN. For the young people. So where we go and sit and talk about, ways we can improve, economic, social, blah, blah, blah. And so there's this thing that happens every April at the UN in New York, the ECOSOC Youth Council. And so my goal was we're going to do 1 year of work, and then April we'll go there and then we'll launch the fund. And then we'll launch the fund, and then we'll do like a tour of fundraising, talk to people.
Yeah, close it in 3 months.
You
man.
know,
Yeah, what's the worst that could
game
happen?
plan. The
Yeah.
game plan was set. Tulikuwa kuna we were in all these, what are they called? All these co-working spaces.
Oh, yeah.
I worked a lot, got a lot of support from Meta. Cheers to Esther and Ida.
Yeah.
Like we really like did the, we really did the back end of the work. So now it got to the small things, branding, things like that. So I remember I co-opted, so we split roles. So I co-opted to give the role of like, go find someone who can do a website, branding. Go and look for someone who can do that for us. So I gave it to my co-founder at the time. And he was like, Sawa, I know this guy is amazing. He can do for us. He sent me links of their websites. Send me some links. I'm like, this is perfect. How long does he need to do the website? We have all the content. It's ready. We've already set up a board, and it was a board of like serious people, like now I took World Bank people.
Damn.
I took like startup. I think one of the founders of Truecaller was in my board. It was a serious board. So I'm like, how many days? He said like, this is a brief, 3 days, we're done. And at that time, I'm like, this is my friend. So hakuna haja ya contracts na manini. Unajua ni word of mouth.
Yeah, of course.
Haya, wacha
Trust is
tuanze kazi. So tunaanza kazi. Like and it's one thing I learned about me, because I really believe in like seeing the best in people. If you ask anyone who's around me, even the people who work with me at Powerland, they're not the same people they were when they came in. Like I have this thing where I like to see people grow, people become, the best versions of themselves. Because low-key, it also validates me. Like it also shows like it
You're
makes me feel good,
making a positive impact
exactly.
in the world.
So we now took in this guy. He was a young guy. He became part of the team. He's our tech guy. Anafanya website nini hapo. Kumbe at the same time, he's listening to our conversations on raising. He's like, okay, so we've talked to this guy. He said he can give us maybe $50,000 to test.
Okay.
If it works, ataongeza ingine nini. Yes, so I think in his head, he started thinking, hey, I think I undercharged these people. Because it seems like there's a lot of money that's coming.
Yeah, okay.
And my game plan was, in my head, even without telling them, if he does a really good job with that, because there are a lot of these startups I want to support, and they don't have like good branding, good websites,
yes.
He'd have become the core person to do all of that work. So he still would have made a lot of money from it. But hakuwa anafikiria hivyo, ni ile instant gratification.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So akafanya website, namwambia ongeza hii nini, akamaliza yote. Aya, when it's done, so mimi naitisha website. Kwanza anatumiwa invoice ya double the cost. So I'm wondering, hey, what's happening, bana?
Yeah.
Then I'm being told, you guys added me work. This is not what we had agreed in the first place. And then, now we don't have a contract like with a brief of engagement.
Yeah.
So ilikuwa tu, like you versus me.
Yes.
Hearsay.
Yeah.
Me, I said, I knew that not much had changed, honestly speaking. And I even told my co-founder that. I'm like, I don't think much has changed. I think he just sat there. He had a lot of, like we're going to raise a lot of money. Then he thought he needs to get more money from this thing. So this guy, we were at an impasse. He decided he's not giving us our credentials.
Jeez.
Nah, he's not.
Pay up first.
Cash. And he's so sisi wote we are at an impasse. So me, I said, because also I know this thing where when you start something, it becomes a thing, It
takes a life of its own.
it takes a life of its own.
Yes.
If I decided and agreed to him extorting me, I feel like it would have become a thing. So another person would come do another thing for me, and then becomes a thing,
Set a precedent.
Yeah, we set a precedent that.
Works,
so me, I said, apana, I'm not doing that, and it's not happening. If you want to stay with the website, stay with this. Hakuna kitu utafanya nayo. The idea is not yours. So 1 year later, so we got some other people to do the website. Tukamalizana 1 year later. Now it's almost April. We are going to the UN. Coincidentally, because of all the work I had done supporting SDGs, I was going to receive an award at the ECOSOC Council for, I think, SDG 8, some decent jobs and something. And so, the way you preempt when you're going, like when you have an event, you preempt, you're like, hey, looking forward to, having Mumbi in New York.
Yeah.
You know what this nigga did? He went and put that invoice on top of that quote, that tweet for the UN. And then he put
Oh my goodness.
and then he said, I think he said something like, you should stop awarding people who don't pay people, something like that. Oh my God. And that thing just took a life of its own. And then now became like all creatives feeling, hey, by the way, this is what you had to leave. Because I remember at the same time, I think models were not being paid.
Yeah, I think there was a movement.
There was
like
a
that
whole
sometime
movement
back,
of things, now. And then I feel like this now became like it took a life of its own. And then the worst thing I didn't know, this guy who we hired to do the website, I think they were dorm mates with one of these extortionist bloggers we have in this country.
Gosh, extortion.
So now they went and sat down and decided, this one
let's tarnish.
ni yeye tunaharibu jina yake
Tunaanguka
kabisa,
naye.
tunaanguka naye. For 2 days wacha nikuambie, I keep telling people, hii kusalimiana haikuanza juzi, ilianza kitambo, because now that extortionist blogger put my number on Twitter and told people to come and tell me to pay them.
I get it.
Hey, you guys, let me tell you.
Oh, jeez.
It was one of the longest 2 days of my life.
And this was like a few days to the conference.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
It was, I remember it was sometime in March, and then the conference was usually the first week of April.
Yeah.
So we were even preparing to go, everything, everything is set. Yeah. So these guys go on Twitter and then they try to go find dirt on me. But now they're not finding even dirt. It's the year for COVID, 2020.
Okay.
So they're not even finding like that, because I remember my cousin read one of the blog posts and then he was like, genuinely, if I am a sane person and I read this thing, instead of like killing your reputation, I feel like if anything, he was telling me I would hire you. Because they were going to say the way I learned how to be a shrewd person because I worked with the likes of the Gina Deans and the Who's, I went to Daystar, and then now I'm looking, what is it called? I'm undermining the young people, the people who are trying to come up because I had privilege. Like because they didn't have like content to like attack me with genuinely.
Yeah.
Because I try to lead a very like open life. Like
open book. Yeah,
open book, yeah. Like even if you come and attack me for doing something, genuinely I know I did it and I'm okay with it. So if you have a problem, you're the problem.
Yeah.
So the 2 days, what saved us was one, COVID happened. Because it was the same period of time.
Oh, I
the
remember
world
March,
was
the first case.
Yeah, because it was like, I think it started on a Thursday and the Friday. And then lockdown happened on the Wednesday.
Yeah.
So it was, I think, and then people got tired also. And then so now, but the worst thing is, I had all these people in my ecosystem I had built for the fund. I was not even caring about the UN thing. I still got that award. It's somewhere in my house. Yeah. It's the people in the fund, the guys who've taken the chance on me. They want to be on my board, things like that. And then now they are hearing, what's happening? What is it? Kwani, how much is it? Can we pay him? Your reputation is worth much more. People came to me with all these things. But the other beauty of it is I've always had a very solid system. Like just from my growing up, brought up, the way you say you're like a grounded person. I like to think I'm a very grounded person.
Okay.
So I also have a very solid like ecosystem around me. They try to protect me in many ways, like from hearing what people were saying.
Yeah.
They were trying. They tried to get lawyers to sue these people. They took me due to DCI. We really did a lot.
Okay, wow.
But I think the best solution or the best what advice I got from that was to start going for therapy. Because I realized I had so much anger at the world.
Okay.
Because I'm like, I'm here trying to help people.
Yes.
And then the world is turning against me, So it kind of like opened me up to the world of therapy, taking care of your mental health, which is a big thing. I'm a huge advocate for that. And then you go to therapy and then you discover, hey, kumbe, I have 100 other issues. And then, it became a whole thing. But yeah, so we were not able to launch the fund at the time, huge in part because of COVID. We were able to sort out the mess with the young man. We paid him what he wanted to be paid. I even told him to stay with the website, I think. He gave it to me. I don't remember. I was just like, I wouldn't even have used that website even if I got it back. But then a huge question came to me of, what is it about why do like this? Because I was talking to other friends of mine who are entrepreneurs, and they were complaining also a lot about guys making for them websites and apps and things like that. Like there was a huge problem with developers in general.
Yes.
And when I kept asking it, because they were like, this is like a new skill that's coming to Africa. So the few who know about it, they feel very important. Like they have this sense of entitlement. So they feel like they can mistreat you the way they want. They can take your money the way they want. And they can give you a shorty job the way they want.
And you wouldn't do anything
And they
about
won't
it.
do anything about it. You're the one who needs them more than they need you. So, and I remember having a conversation with one of my really close friends and mentors, and he was like, "So what is the gap? Like, what is the gap in that space? What is the issue, and how do we fix it?" This is in 2021.
Okay.
No, 2020, later in the year. So we talked about it, and then that story kaisha kapotea hivyo. So in 2021 comes another story again. So I still at the World Bank, but now I'm getting sort of fatigue.
Okay.
Even the youth things, I'm getting fatigue. I'm like, hey, I'm not too young anymore. I think I need to give space to other young people to come and talk. So I'm like, what do I want to do next with my life? So I had two things to do. So I wanted to do a startup around supporting women, giving women resources for like funding and things like that, capacity building. Because I also knew there was a huge gap for a lot of like women entrepreneurs, and I still think there is even now. Yeah, especially when it comes to funding. That was one of them. The other thing was around The other thing was around something to do with education.
Okay.
I just didn't know what exactly it was, but I knew I was very passionate about learning because I had even applied to go to Oxford to do my master's.
Okay.
And then coincidentally, I got into the school, but I didn't get the scholarship that I wanted. And I was a whole mess. I was a total mess because I thought that was my next game plan. And then from there, I can start the startup. And then, so the plan, your plan is here, and then God's plan is here.
Yes.
And then, So 2021, a friend of mine introduced me to some other Nigerian gentleman. And and let me tell you guys, anyway, I think it's been the roller coaster of my life. And because I think I told my friend that what I wanted to do about both of these startups.
Yeah.
And she knew these two people who are both in those areas of fields.
Yes.
And so she was like, why don't you come and meet them? And then you see if you guys can form a sort of partnership.
Yeah.
So we met up at Cafe Upper Westgate. And I had a very strong, I was very drawn to the lady. She was doing something around women. So I was very drawn strongly connected to what she was doing. It was very aligned to what I wanted to do. For the gentleman, it took a lot of my friends convincing.
Okay.
Like, I was like, are you sure all these things anasema anafanya money?
Yeah.
But my friend was like, no, I mean, he's brilliant. You should give him a chance. You never know where this could go. Things like that. And so after talking to them, I remember this was, I think, I think May 2021.
Okay.
And then now I used to sit on the advisory for one of the former CASs. Her name is Nadia Ahmed. She used to be the CAS for Innovation, ICT. So I remember this time with UNDP, they took us to Ghana for a youth engagement at the time. So when I was on the way back in the airport, this lady calls me and says, I think I found the opportunity you were looking for. And it's like, where are you? We need to meet. I'm like, I'm in Ghana, I'm in the airport, but I'm coming back to Nairobi. It's like, when you land, I think it was Wednesday, when you land immediately, please come to the office and see me. So I landed, showered, I went to hear this story. So when I got there, that's when the first conversation was had there's this opportunity. There's this gentleman from Japan. He's a billionaire. He wants to come and support Africa in technology. But he's not sure exactly how to do it. But he wants to do it in a non-profit model. And when he was talking about it, I thought about what you were talking about. And you have the non-profit background, so it kind of made sense. So just listen to him and see what happens. So now I went to the Nigerian guy, listened to him. He's like, hey, this is a game plan. Oh yeah, we want to do this. Okay. But no idea where to start. I said, so first, I didn't accept immediately. It took me like a few days. They had to call me a few times. Cheza had to get.
Okay.
And then after a while, I had to get a bit. Don't just speak on the first
Be so
call.
available, yeah.
Don't be too available. In everything in life, don't be too available. So had our first meeting. I think after a week, I said yes. Said, let me take a shot at this, talk to my sister. She was like, what do you have to lose? I mean, just, take the risk. Sometimes in life, you take the risk. And sometimes, success is when preparation meets opportunity.
Yeah, that's true.
And I feel like I was really prepared for something like that. So, had our first brainstorm meeting. And then now, and I remember until this day, I have that photo of that whiteboard. Of this is what we want to do. So in the bank, I used to run a project or support a project called 1 million farmers. So we wanted to digitize 1 million farmers. And I thought, what if instead we train 1 million developers who I can even give to those farmers to digitize,
Okay.
And that's where our first program came about.
Okay.
The 1 million devs for Africa.
Uh-huh.
And it sounded very, I remember everyone we were talking to, they were just thinking, you guys are nuts. 1 million, what do you mean? And then the research is showing quality developers in Africa were about 780K, I think, at the time, like in Africa.
The whole continent.
So they're like, you're even planning to train more than. But I was like, guys, look at the opportunity. There is a huge demand for this kind of talent. And mine is very agnostic,
In Kenya alone, like there are 800,000 graduates a year. So a year. So it's
where are these people going?
Perspective, true.
There's a huge demand, opportunity, no people. Or if they're there, the skill is off. Just to give an example, when Microsoft came to set up in Kenya, they went to poach everyone. So the other corporates and SMEs, they were really struggling. They were really struggling.
True. That's true.
Because they're like, okay, so where do we start? And then that's when the whole conversation of, okay, now we need to invest in skilling people. We can't just see it and keep recycling the same people. And ideally, that's the whole idea of Powerland Project. We have this very ambitious goal to train 1 million developers across Africa. And ours is very sector agnostic. So you come in, I give you the basic skills. So ideally, we are trying to become like the ICDL. Remember what we used to do?
Yes.
You leave high school,
Form 4,
you go for 6 weeks or 16 weeks, you do a course. And then you live there.
International computer driving license.
Yes.
Gen Z.
Gen Z,
I don't know that thing still exists.
I don't think they understand that one. So now, Powerland is the ICDL for Gen Z. So
that's really powerful because that time, ICDL, actually, I remember I did ICDL.
Yes.
So I remember because I got a laptop when I was in class 8.
Yes.
So I did ICDL because guys were doing. So I was like, so I'm going to school to learn Microsoft. Like that time I was like,
Office.
What do you mean? Office. But say you have it. But if you think of like what's the ICDL for now, it's an opportune time to change all that is and equip people with like coding skills.
Yes, because most people are like most of digital natives. They've grown up with iPads, and I think my nephews know how to use iPads better than me. I play with them Nintendo. They kick my ass all the time. So we can't keep teaching them about Microsoft Word. We need to teach them new things. And that's how I look at it completely. Like this is the new ICDL. And not only for Kenya, for Africa. Because what we do at Powerland, also we realized there was a gap in skilling. So most people are focused on advanced skilling. Then the intermediate, upper katikati, there's no one doing that. So now you find there's a huge gap here. So there are advanced people, but hapa chini hakuna.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to hire a senior software engineer to build for me a website.
Yeah.
So we decided to do the intermediate course first, and then we do a critical mass. So we train on basic skills. By the time you're done with our program, you have practical skills. You can do mobile web, you can do, a bit of data science, you can do, and then from there now you advance.
Yeah.
And the other thing we also realized was in terms of cost. So a lot of people would be like, I'm very interested in this program, but I cannot afford. I just look at our competitors, for example, like Moringa School. The cost for perhaps to learn the same course we're charged, it's way higher than what we are providing. So most people would not afford to pay for university and then go back and pay for an extra course. And much as we're all doing the same thing, we realized also there's an element of community that was missing. And the community is where now these other soft skills come in. How do you work in teams? How do you, deal with clients? How do you, because that's a gap I myself experienced and a lot of my friends. So based off of all of that, now we were able to design a program that actually works. Because as of now, we've been able to train, I think we're about to onboard our next 10,000 cohort now. By the end of this year, we'll be doing 22,000.
Wow.
And out of the 22,000, I think over 60% are doing something with their life. Thanks to those skills. I was speaking at the UN, when is it, on Monday? I bumped into an intern who is working at UN Habitat, who was part of our program. And it's a lady. And she told me during the Women in Tech Week at the UN, she was really shining because of the UI UX skills she got from us.
Oh gosh, that's dope.
Within the conference itself, a gentleman came, is like, okay, I just joined the program, this cohort. I'm really looking forward to it. I was recommended by a friend.
Wonderful.
I walked into a restaurant. The gentleman serving is like, Madam Mumbi, how are you? I'm a beneficiary of PLP, I go to Kilifi County. We've trained about 350 there in collaboration with the government. The parents there came for the graduation like it's their own.
Wow.
And they were like, we thought this program was alive because we've seen that happen. People come and give us big talk and then they disappear. Us, they came for the launch and they've come for the graduation.
Nice.
And some of their kids are actually absorbed within the Powerland ecosystem. They are interns within Powerland. And now, together with the government, we're going to train about 5,000 more,
Wow.
Okay.
And that's like my goal. It has been that here in Kenya, we're in Nigeria, same thing. We're in Tanzania, same thing. And the best part of it is they're building solutions for the problems they are facing.
Within their communities.
Exactly, which is basically what we did with Powerland. So just to give one example, there's a young gentleman called Benaya. I think you know about Benaya. I think at the time, he was in law school. And then he could not finish law school because of fees. So he took up the program. And then within the program, I think they realized there was a huge gap when it came to payments for gig workers. And so he was like, okay, PayPal is not really working for Africa, especially for like young gig workers, like not the big ones, like the ones who are being paid well. So what is the solution I can create to help my fellow? And they created a platform. Now they are doing revenues of over $100,000.
Wow.
In a span of a year. There's a young lady called Nelly.
22-year-old.
Imagine, 22-year-old.
Yeah.
And that's just one example. Nelly, same thing. She care economy. The way we have taxis within the estate. There's that guy, that Njoro guy. Njoro, unajua,
trusted by everyone.
Kabisa. Like, if today I'm not available, he can go pick my kid and he can bring back my kid home and I know my kid will be safe. So she realized there was an opportunity for such people. Instead of waiting instead of parents suffering because Njoro leo ameshachukuliwa na mtu mmoja, why don't you put all of them into like an app?
Wow.
And then based on trust of the parents, now parents use that app so from the next estate,
Yes.
and they can take them to school.
And their carpooling as well.
Exactly.
Oh,
so
gosh.
their
It's cheaper.
carpooling is cheaper. And now she just got into a very big partnership with Isuzu because now she's ferrying almost 1,000 children a day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez.
That's amazing.
All of this Nelly didn't have a tech background, zero.
Yeah.
She was just extremely like passionate about how can I create a solution for this problem, you know?
So let me ask,
Yeah.
this program is fully sponsored or they...
Yes, so it's fully 100% fully sponsored.
Okay.
So they apply. So we have 3 cohorts in a year. So they apply, we select. So we have like an entrance exam. Then we select about, at least every cohort, we do 8,000 to 10,000 young people from across Africa.
Okay.
The main 5 countries in Africa. But we've realized now we might need to open it up because we get applications. Like these past applications, I think we got applications from 52 countries.
Wow.
Jeez.
Like even outside Africa.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Okay.
we might think about it. Maybe that's a scaling plan. But so 16 weeks, they come in. So we have the orientation first, and then they're put into peer groups.
Okay.
So when you come in, there's each peer group has about 250 young people, but it's very assorted from all over. And the reason for this is because we realize sometimes it's easier for me to understand when teaches me than when a teacher teaches me.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we really advocate for peer learning. And the good thing about that we've seen is it's evolved into communities. So like University of Nairobi, there's like a PLP community there.
Okay.
University of Egerton, Moi University, you'll find like JKUAT is one of our biggest hubs.
Yeah.
PLP community there. Yeah. But also we have instructors on the platform.
Okay.
So that's what kind of makes us different from a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because if you go to Coursera, it's up to you and your discipline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we know that's a
Self-serve.
huge challenge for a lot of people. So to make sure that people complete the program, but also get quality education, we make sure we have expert instructors on the platform.
Okay.
So each 250 group of 250 to 500 has an instructor who has like a support system. So they're assistant instructor. So it's like a flipped classroom.
I see.
So the way you go to class, now the class comes to you in a sense. So the teacher comes to you.
Yeah.
So you can book like timings with the teacher, time slots with the teacher in case you're stuck. If you want an in-person session, you can request him for an in-person session and we cater for that. There's this thing they call Coffee and Code.
Okay.
It was started by med school students in UN because they wanted to learn tech, but med school is very hectic.
Yeah.
Okay.
So every Saturday from like 4 to 6, they do what they call Coffee and Code. So you go to like a coffee space within the university, and then now we send them teachers and resources. And then they do 2 hours of what you would have done, maybe 30 minutes every day.
Oh.
Yeah. And now it's become a thing. Like in Meru, they do Coffee and Code of like 300 people.
Damn, that's a big
Yeah, and
community.
it's sponsored by the school.
Wow.
And then us, we just send them instructors and materials and courses and the I think the beauty I've seen out of that is okay, maybe just to finish about the program, sorry. So 16 weeks is the duration of the program. So that's the learning period of the program. So you start with all the courses first, and then now you specialize somewhere. So you can say, now I want to be a Python expert. Then you focus on Python. And then by the, I think, 12th week, now you start working on your projects. So to graduate, you have to have a project, a portfolio.
Okay.
So that when you go to an employer, you can show them this is what I've built. Because now tech is about skills. I want skills for, you know, it's not about CVs.
Yeah. It's like what have you done?
Yeah. So after 16 weeks, then we spend about a month fine-tuning the projects. Then we have boot camps where now we call like VCs and stuff. They come, see seed stage, see what you can support, incubators, accelerators, who can you put into. So like the guys I was talking about, the fintech platform, they got some huge money from Mozilla.
Okay.
Yeah, so which helped them now build out the platform.
This is so good.
It's pretty
It's really
dope.
incredible. And actually for that particular story, you said this is someone who was in law school.
Imagine.
So it's not even someone who's doing computer science or enabling and guys in med school. I think it's really, really
because
cool.
tech is I look at it as an enabler. Everything we're doing now requires technology, regardless of what field you are, whether it's medicine, healthcare, education needs a lot of technology. One thing COVID showed us is we were not prepared, especially the education institutions were not prepared. And that's actually my goal, like for the future, to see how we can adapt this model for Powerland. Because I think one of the other things that makes us stand out is how innovative we are in terms of the curriculum. So we know right now Python is a thing, amazing. We will, our curriculum will tweak, we'll make sure that it's fit for the market.
Yes.
Because we also do a lot of market research.
Okay.
So we work together with academia and industry partners.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have like committees every so often.
Okay.
So it's very relevant.
Very
to the time,
relevant,
practical.
adaptable, which is not the same as universities, as schools, because curriculums take very long. For
that's
for
part
it
of
to
the
adapt.
reasons people are dropping out of school.
Exactly.
Is why
They're
am
like,
lagging?
I spent 4 years here, and then I go to, and if you go speak to industry partners, go to ask the Microsofts, the who's, they still tell you, I'm going to hire this person, but I'm going to invest so much and spend like 3 months upskilling them to where I want them to be.
That's true.
Which I think should not be the case. So we need more innovative education models. And I think like Powerline is one of those now. And I can see a lot of people are, and I think that's why we get a lot of like invitations to come and talk about like how did we make it work. But it's only if you're creating an intervention, you have to talk to the people you're creating the intervention for. You can't just sit in a boardroom
exactly
and then say this
and plan for those guys
team, and then this is thing.
Like those are so many students,
I
Like in
know.
20,000 people.
I know.
Where do you get all this money? How?
Hey, let me tell you guys.
Hey.
Do you believe in guardian angels? Honestly speaking, I think so one of the main partners and founders of Powerland Project, his name is Kenji Sasaki. He's a billionaire in from Japan.
From Japan, okay.
But he's also like a tech guy. He's like, I remember someone compared him. So he's like the Elon Musk of Japan.
Oh, wow.
So he's one of the founders of Cardano blockchain.
Cardano.
Yes.
Okay.
He's a very, 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 he's taught me a lot about grace and humility. And I know it's a cultural thing, but I feel like for him, it's like something different. Like he's a very graceful guy. And he really wants to help. He keeps saying that him having access to that computer is what made him who he is today. So if he can replicate that with all these people we are working with, can you imagine that opportunity for Africa?
I think the powerful thing with these things also is like, this is, if one person, for example, gets to become now that billionaire, you can imagine now from him he's impacting like now 2,000.
Imagine.
On the way to 1 million. So
all the way to 1 million. So imagine if we create 3, 4 more, 5.
Exactly.
Kenji Sasaki's. Africa is set, you know? And also not only in terms of the money, but in terms of the values. You know? Just understanding, the humility, understanding, the value of helping people, understanding the value of inspiring people to become their best selves, you know? So combination of all those values. And I think that's a lot of what Powerland stands on today. If you even meet lot of my team, like everywhere I go for meetings, guys are like, by the way, you have a solid team. And it's not solid because of their work ethic only. It's just that they say they are very kind people, naturally. Like they are very warm and welcoming, hospitable. And I feel like that's heavily, the foundation of that is heavily from perhaps the Japan element. But also we have a lot of partners. Safaricom is one of our partners. We're Safaricom Hook. We are one of the key training partners for Safaricom Hook. We're hoping to train at least 300 from across different counties on digital skills. Of course, the county government, Kilifi County government is one of our best partners. Governor Gideon is a pretty forward-thinking leader. And I really appreciate the support he's provided us with to get to where we are. And I look forward to where we go. But we have a lot of partners. We have ILO also as one of our key partners because they understand the value that we need to start preparing for the future of work
now.
And this is what we're doing at Powerland is what ideally that looks like.
I'm very keen for us to translate like somehow how this dream of yours and this purpose has come to impact almost 20,000 people today, at least by the 22,000 people. So how much has it taken? And the reason I'm asking this question is because I believe other billionaires will listen to this podcast. And I'm sure corporates and everybody.
Yes.
Just to understand how much how much it would take, because people have these millions and millions of dollars,
and
but
they
it's
don't know
good.
where to take them.
Yes, it's good for people to know. Yeah.
So, to be honest, the cost of training a junior developer, which is what we churn out of our program, is roughly maybe $1,500, $2,000.
Okay.
We've been able to subsidize it to the cost of $500 per learner.
Okay.
And this is because of quite a couple of things. And I think the larger the number of people we train, the lower the cost becomes.
Economies.
When we were setting up Powerland initially, our goal was to spend roughly maybe $4 million per year. We were able to work so efficiently that we were able to train 10,000 people with only $1.2 million across Africa.
Wow.
I can promise you, I've spoken to so many people who work within such spaces and development organizations, DFIs. There's no one who has been able to achieve that level of scale with that cost.
Yeah, that's super efficient.
And I think that becomes a very a great passion point for a lot of like DFIs and a lot of money institution, venture capitalists, like you're saying, because they're like, I can see so it's possible to be done. The efficiencies. If you limit the bureaucracies, I think one of the key lessons maybe I can also share here with like other founders is to ensure that systems and structures are extremely critical from the onset.
Okay.
Don't wait to set them up 3-5 years down the line. It really cost me a huge sum of money, and it cost me. It almost cost me my dream. That dream of Powerland project, which I think is a story for another day. But just saying systems and structures.
Yes.
We like to be practical in this podcast.
So I can see you.
No. Just tell us so that we learn. We don't repeat these mistakes.
So what I mean by systems and structures is this. So for mine is a bit different because we are a non-profit. Non-profits are heavily run by boards.
Okay.
So boards dictate a lot about how non-profits run. And partly also the donors dictate. And most times the donors sit on the board. So what we did with Powerland, because we were extremely excited about this very ambitious goal and passion and everything, we focused more on the program than setting up the structures and the governance.
Okay.
And by the end of the first year, we came to realize that there were a lot of like red flags that we were ignoring because we were like, okay, we'll get to that later. See, we have a board. It's there. They are just non-functional. But let's first run the program. We committed to 5 countries. We committed to 10,000 people first. So let's finish that first.
Okay.
And then we ran back to the governance.
Yes.
And that really came to bite me properly. I can promise you, because I lost a lot of money. And it's the sense of not putting up the systems and structures of accountability.
Okay.
But also, I think it's also a trust thing. And that's why I was saying it's where naivety comes from. The way, this is my co-founder. We trust in each other. We believe in each other. You do your thing, me, I do my thing. Me, my thing, I've done the program. It has worked. It's amazing. Your only thing was to keep us accountable. But you decided the accountability is buying big cars and, and that happens a lot in the startup world. And it sort of came to bite us a lot because by the time it was hitting us that this is happening, it was a bit too late.
I see.
It had already happened. But also, I think for me, this most scariest part is, and that's why I keep saying I think I'm one of the most resilient people I didn't even know, is now going back, say, to my donor and saying this and this happened.
Yes.
And how do you prove that you were not part of it? I think that was one of the hardest things I had to go through in that year. And I feel that, much as I had a very strong support system, I have a huge network of mentors around me who, all of them had all sorts of ideas of how I should handle the situation. But the one thing I've also come to learn is always go with your gut.
Yes.
I told you guys that story of that art cafe and the gut feeling I had in my stomach.
Yes.
I should have followed it.
Yes.
But there was something that I think in me that likes to give people the benefit of doubt. I'm like, in life, most people start from, and I think, I don't know if it's an African thing, starts from when I meet Tesh, the first thing is to remove you from an A, maybe to a D, then I make you earn the A.
Yeah.
You get?
Yeah.
So mine has always been
The opposite.
Okay.
So I start you with an A.
Yeah.
Then now you go
Reduce for yourself.
which has really come to hurt me in many ways.
Yeah.
The first
They say trust,
instance,
but verify.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So the first instance with the website designer, I think that happened for a reason also.
Okay.
Because it cut off a lot of people who I genuinely now knew who are there for the wrong reasons. You are not my friends, and I'm happy that happened then, because I feel like if it happened now, I would have had much more to lose.
Yes, the stakes are high.
So that happened then. I think this also happened for a reason. And in life, we're usually told there are people who come across your life for various reasons. There are destiny shapers, destiny connectors, destiny breakers, destiny wako wote.
Okay.
They're all part of your destiny. They come, they serve their purpose, and then they exit. There are some, they come, they serve their purpose, you move together, or they take you to the next level. And I feel like in this instance, this situation for me was a destiny connection, because it kind of now, it made me resilient in the way that I had to be very, adamant, because I had so many people relying on me in terms of, they have families.
Yeah.
I have a team of almost 50 people at Powerland Project from across Africa. How am I going to sit and tell them?
Yes.
The other side, there's 1 million young people waiting for scholarships. How am I going to go and tell them? So I felt like I had this load of responsibility on me that I had to make a very tough decision and break ties first. And then now sit down and invest in setting up systems, structures, and governance. And that's the work I've been doing most of this year. That and fundraising. That has been my job. So sitting down, first convincing people to join my board, because they already know the situation. They're like, you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure this is not gonna go? Because it seemed very...
Yes.
Are you sure we are not going to find ourselves one day in Interpol or Sijui where, So I had to do a lot of meetings, convincing people that, and also convincing people that I was not part of it. And I feel like that's the part I hated the most.
Yes.
Because they were like, you can't tell me all these things were happening and you're not aware,
Yeah.
But now you have to take them from the onset and then tell them this is what happened, this is how it went, this is why this happened.
And this is how we'll ensure it doesn't happen.
This is how we'll ensure it will not happen again. So now we had to invest and get, proper legal teams, proper governance teams to make sure that our structures and systems are in order, so that will never happen again, not even with me as the co-founder of this thing. Never. It will never happen. And if it's at the point where I am the liability for the institution, I can be kicked out because there's a bigger goal at hand and there's bigger work to be done. And there's 1 million people waiting to be impacted. So there's no possible way that we can allow this to happen again.
Gosh. It's so fascinating,
It's
especially
such a sacrifice.
Just meeting your destiny shaper or destiny helper and your destiny breaker, sort of, around the same time.
Around the same time,
But you've gone through all of it.
I've really gone through the fire. Nowadays, nothing scares me. What happened? We will figure it out.
Yes.
What happened? And I feel like it built my resilience in a certain way. And I think the one thing my mom says, my mom is one of my greatest mentors. And the one thing she says, she's also heavily the one on the destiny stuff. This person was your destiny connector. He did his work. His work has ended. So even if you stay mad, if you stay angry or you want to do what, that part has been done. There's a reason that happened. Now focus on the future. The second thing she says is this is probably preparing you for something bigger.
Yes.
So who knows? Next 2037, mtasikia hapo CS, CS. And the fire is 10 times hotter.
It's true.
Yes.
So she's like, look at it as good lessons. Look at it as, I know it's hard to be positive in such a situation, but try and look at it in a certain way. And I can promise you for a fact, once we set everything in order, the doors have really opened. The doors opened Like I'm being called in Oxford University, come and talk to us about this thing. How is it working? Why is it working? What are we doing wrong? Go to the World Bank, say the same thing. Go to the UN. Every day I am in the UN explaining what we're doing and, and I feel like that's such validation for me because it shows that, creating interventions based on the people you actually want to help really works. Secondly, efficiency works. So let no one lie to you apa sijui nini apa. And I can promise you for a fact, my people at Powerland don't sleep hungry or anything like that. Efficiency actually works. If you just commit to do the thing that you committed to do. And that's why I keep saying, once you understand your why, everything else falls in line. It falls in place. And a lot of people keep asking me, even with the top 40 award winning, I kept telling people, like, guys didn't understand why I was not excited about it. But to me, I was like, I know the journey ahead.
Yes.
And it's very long. It's so long. This is just a drop. I'm not being ungrateful. It's just that, yes, I'm happy, but yes, there's so much to do. Still a lot to be done. And I think that's also partly where now being grounded comes from. Because let me tell you, a lot of people in my position would walk around this town feeling some certain type of way. Tesha, I'm sure you've been in that position. With all the startups you've launched and, everyone suddenly wants to be your friend. Everyone, wants this from you. Your phone is ringing nonstop. All these things. It doesn't change. As long as you're grounded, it doesn't change the person that you are. If anything, the lessons are what shape you. And for me, I feel like that's what happened to me a lot in the past 3 years. And I'm really glad I actually didn't do that MBA because I feel like I did an MBA of life.
Oh, yeah, no, you got the best MBA.
Nilipata the best MBA. Yes, School of Hard Knocks. Why? This is the School of Hard Knocks. So, and the beauty of this is a lot of people don't know this part of the journey. They only see the glitz and the glam. They just see, hey, Powerland is just killing it every day. Today you are with which president? Today you are where? They don't know kunyuma. Where?
The legwork you've done.
The legwork we've done. We've sat down, we've cried tears, we've shed blood. But I think everything happens for a reason. And of course, also just to say thanks to all our people who believed in us, all our partners, both across the world and even here in Kenya, people who've supported us, people like Nadia have supported us since she was minister. Now she's the chair of my board. So, it's like, and it's people who've like seen the journey now, who've seen the legwork. So they see, so they got, I remember even when the top 40 thing came out, like one of my mentors was 10 times more happy than I was.
Wow.
And she was like, this is so, I don't think there's anyone else in this document who deserves this top 40 because that was like a huge validation after that whole journey that we went through. And and also my team has been amazing. I have a very supportive team. Huku nikipigana na, all this chaos, they were, holding the fort, making sure cohorts are running, making sure. So I really, really appreciate them a lot. And the beauty of that also, and I say, companies are people, it's, you can have an amazing product, but at the end of the day, it's the people who matter. And the beauty of also us at Powerland, we've had very little, like since we started, I think we've had turnover of 3 people or less.
Wow.
Like we are very, very minimal turnover.
Wow, nice.
And for me, that says a lot to me as a leader, but also it says a lot on how people are extremely important in terms of value. And I think all leaders, all founders, all CEOs, all people in their different capacities should really take that to heart. Invest in your people, even in the smallest ways. When they do good, tell them you did well. When they did do wrong, show them the direction if you know, but also be open to learning from them. Everyone has something to teach someone, regardless of whatever role they sit in. And I think with that kind of mentality, we can really go far as a continent.
Yeah. Like, what would you say is our parting shot? I would like say like so many gems in this one episode, but like a parting shot.
Yes.
And how people can be able to just get Powerland, apply for these programs.
So to start with that, so we have 3 cohorts in a year. You can get access to Powerland through our website, so powerlandproject.org. can get all the information there. We have social media platforms as well. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Just go and look Powerland Project, LinkedIn, everywhere. You can also engage with me directly, Mumbi Ndung'u, on Instagram. I'm on Twitter as Kobi, at COBYI. I'm on LinkedIn as well. I'm very responsive. I try to be very responsive. So we have many cohorts. You can apply for the cohorts. You can join our community, because in our community, you don't need to have gone through the program. It's like we're building this tech community. And within the tech community, there are very many aspects. You can learn financial literacy from banks. There's something we call Power Women in Tech, which is like my own ode to like women in tech. So where we support, with resources, we support women with information, mentorship. We have mental health and wellness. Like I said before, that's a huge part of myself. So we also incorporate it in the program. We also have a lot of hackathons, we have a lot of experts from across the world who come and talk. We even had one of the guys who built this game called Subway Surfers. He came on board to talk about, gaming, gaming is a thing now. So the community is really fun. And we do a lot of activities in the community. So you can be able to join that still through our social media platforms. You can check them there. And engage with us. Support our work as well. We are currently in a season of fundraising as well, because we want to expand. We've seen like some of these ideas I'm talking about. Some of them are really brilliant. And my goal is to create like a sandbox of creating solutions like for SDGs in the future. So all these things we're building, and then we now scale them to different countries. You have problems of electricity. Here is a solution. You have a problem for. That's my goal. And we need resources, a lot of resources to do that. And also just the training as well itself. We need support with that. So anyway, you feel that we can partner with Powerland Project, please feel free to reach out to me or partnerships@powerlandproject.org. We would love any kind of support, in kind, financial. We are very, very open to it. We'd love to do that. And
Always be selling.
my parting shot.
See why she's
Always be
successful.
closing.
ABC always be closing.
And I think my parting shot is honestly two things. One, stay authentic, and two, it's cool to be conscious, guys. Kitambo, we used to think charity is for, the broke and poor and things, but I think my slogan in life has been, it's cool to be conscious. Like, look at me, I'm a cool person. I won't lie. Look at Tesh, he's a cool person. Look at you, you are a cool person. But you're still very conscious about your surrounding, you're empathetic, so I think that's like a slogan for Gen Z also. It's cool to be conscious. It's cool to care about things that matter. And of course, stay authentic. Always stay authentic. Like what I am during the day is who I am during the night. If I'm a bad person during the day, if I'm a drug dealer during the day, at night still remain the drug dealer you are. And I think life will be much easier for you if you proceed in that light. But those are two of my parting shots.
Hey, gems.
My gosh.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. This has been amazing. Gems, as promised, they have been delivered. And it was such a good final episode for this season. Thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and guys, you know what to do. Subscribe, share. This story should be heard by so many people. I'm sure you know guys who are struggling with finding jobs. This is an opportunity, fully sponsored programs by PLP. I think it's something you should definitely share. And let's build Africa. So until next time, take care, guys.
Cheers.
Yeah.